one of my most important day in my life. And thank you for becoming the members of my overall defense. My topic of today's is exploring and theorizing the effects of AI chatbots in EFL academic presentations. And this is design-based research on the development of oral presentation skills, self-regulations, and theoretical models. Today, I'm going to first talk about the introduction part, telling you the background, the significance, related literatures, and the rationales, research questions. And it's followed by methodology. Of course, I'm going to tell you why I'm using DBR, which is design-based research. And following that, I'm also going to talk about the theoretical framework, which I'm going to use, and also the research design. Of course, based on the methodologies, I'm going to talk about the results in intervention, results in cycle 3, and cycle 4, based on the quantitative and qualitative data that I've collected. And finally, discussion. I'm going to addressing 3 of my research questions. Conclusions, of course, I'm going to talk about some implications. And of course, questions and comments are extremely welcome after my presentation. Firstly, I'm going to talk about introductions. So, with the advancement of modern technologies and the global progressions to knowledge societies, the global to have effective communications, collaborations, and self-regulated learnings has become more essential than ever. And it can be a success in modern and education and the workplace. And this kind of competency is actually embodied in academic oral presentations. Of course, students need to have the combinations of good content knowledge, multimodal literacies, and self-awareness in order to become successful, not only in workplace, but also in educational context. And these trends is further reinforced by national context, which is Taiwan's bilingual 2030 policy. However, to teach students how to become a good presenters is difficult. And of course, I've got a lot of problems, challenges, especially for EFL L2 learners. Of course, they've got linguistic deficiencies because English, of course, is not their first language. They've also got some psychological anxieties, rhetorical improperness. Simply, they will use their written text in order to read it, right? And misuse of visual design. Furthermore, for teachers, of course, they've got instruction constraints because Taiwan is actually a society which is test-driven. And a lot of teachers would mainly focus on grammaticals and vocabularies memorizations. And this is worsened by teacher-centered pedagogies and our over-reliance on native-like grammar. And despite of all these challenges, of course, it seems like AI could be an ideal way to solve our problems, because AI-empowered chatbots have emerged as a promising solutions. Why? Because it can have real-time feedback, give students tailored, customized feedback, and to help them to do self-reflections, of course. However, studies on these kind of interventions remain scant. So based on the research gap, the purpose of my dissertation is firstly to investigate the impact of learners' development of verbal and visual skills after my interventions. And also, I want to explore their SRL and metacognitive skills development. Finally, based on the results of 1 and 2, I will also would like to see if I can develop some theoretical insights. Before moving on, of course, I'm going to talk about some theoretical principles. The first one, of course, is the mobile assisted language learning, which I've called MO. What is it? Of course, given the special affordance of mobile devices, of course, students will have can actually develop their language learning and skills. Next, I will also talk about social materialism and what it is. Actually, researchers has argued that learning is like an entanglement between human and non-human entities. And because of these distributed agencies, it's actually among human and non-human tools. Right. Next, let's move on to Mayer's cognitive theories of multimedia learning. And it refers to that learning occurs by actively selecting, organizing, and interpreting visuals and auditory informations. But it is only with limited processing. So what does it mean? It means that when presenting, it's better to offer a dual channel information with information in order to help your audience to better understand what you're talking about, right? So the use of both verbal and visual communications tools are like vitally important. Next, the final one is the self-regulated learning. What does it mean? It means that the active regulations of cognitive and metacognitive behaviors, and of course, it can happen individually, within group, or between groups. Right, so based on these theoretical principles, of course, I would like to propose 3 research questions. Of course, how does my intervention affect my students' verbal and visual communication skills? And how does these interventions affect learners' self-regulated learning behaviors? Based on the results of question 1 and 2, I wonder if there are any identified theoretical components. If yes, okay, so what special theoretical perspective could be developed? Right, let's move on to part 2, which is methodology. So, why DBR? Why design-based research? But not other methodology? Because AI support learning environments are considered to be very, very complicated. And it can be due to its adaptive, context-dependent variables. And of course, it required iterative or recursive cycles in order to better test and refine our pedagogy to maximize or to ensure the pedagogical effectiveness. So there are four stages of DBR. The first one is, of course, to identify the problems. Secondly, we need to develop prototype solutions, which is theoretical driven. Thirdly, we're gonna test it with 2 or 3 cycles. And finally, we would like to reflect on it in order to develop, if possible, to develop design principles or optimize the solutions. All right, so the framework which I developed is AI integrated self-social regulated flipped learning. Right, so due to the affordance of mobile technology, of course, I asked students to do some pre-class activities with the purpose to, of course, to help them to learn before class and to do goal setting. Following the pre-class activities in class, students will actually apply what they've learned. They've actually learned with their teachers, they've learned with their peers, and they've actually applied what they've learned. And finally, after class, they would also to consolidate what they've learned and to review. And furthermore, to see if their goals are attained. Right, and next, let's talk about my research design. So in my schools, which is National University of Science and Technology in Southern Taiwan, I've recruited 29 undergraduate students from diverse disciplines, and their English proficiencies ranged from A2 to B2 according to the CFR language framework. And they've also volunteers to attend my class, which is an elective class with the names Multimedia, Assist English Oral Presentations and Communications. And of course, they are expected to develop their verbal and visual communication skills. All right, and of course, thank you, Professor Wu, that we've developed EOPA4. But what is so special about EOPA4? Firstly, it got real-time customized responses. And of course, it got good multimedia scaffoldings, which students can learn from the videos. And after they watch their videos, they can reflect on their understanding to see if they really understand what the context. And finally, they can log into Google Forms in order to check their understanding one more time. Oh, and this is based on a RAG model, which is a trivial augmented generations. And by this, we can diminish the possibilities of AI hallucination. All right, and this is actually the videos which I recorded. Let's see how these work. Oh, okay, so maybe we can watch it after my presentation. Okay. All right, and next, what I want to emphasize is that these chatbots has a very special features, which is what we call reflection. Right, but what is so special about these reflection functions? So actually, students can reflect on what they're learning while interacting with EOPA4. So for example, they will ask students questions, and students will reflect what they've learned, and they will be graded like immediately, right? For example, 4 scores is 5. So if they've got a 4 out of 5, of course, it's a pretty nice scores, right? And after these interactions, they will get what we call a final grade or scores in order to see overall what their performance overall. Okay, and there is another videos, so probably we can watch it after my presentations. Right, and in addition to EOPA4, I've also used a reading coach, which is a great product by Microsoft, and it got customers' feedback, and it can help students to practice their mispronounced word. And also, it's even better. It's got syllable breakings, so students can practice what they've learned, the errors, the mispronunciation errors, and these is color reminders to help them to analyze what their mispronunciation errors. All right, and next, instruments. Actually, my research is actually based on triangulated data, both quantitative and qualitative. In terms of quantitative, I use pre-test and post-test. And of course, I also used questionnaires in order to evaluate students' ideas. And also, in terms of quantitative data, I've conducted semi-structured interviews. I also analyze students' presentation work. I also invite another teachers from my university to observe my class. And finally, and the most importantly, I also analyze students' EOPA interaction log and their reading coach learning history. Basically, my research can be divided into 4 cycles. So for cycle 1 and cycle 2, I would say that will be referred to more likely to be the pilot stage. So during this stage, I've actually tried to modify the pedagogical design and to upgrade the EOPA4. And in cycle 3 and cycle 4, which is the official test cycles, and of course, it got 2 stages of AI ISFL, and after the refinement, finally, I've got ISL